Imagine a perfect world where you can build a restaurant, open the doors, and make loads of money. Unfortunately, those days are over. It takes great leadership, hard work, and long hours to operate a successful restaurant. Together, we can make it happen. This is Restaurantopia. All right, welcome back to Restaurantopia. We got a great episode here and a great actual guest coming into an expert in the industry, Bob Pacanovsky. He's a keynote speaker. He's been in the business for a quarter of a century, which sounds like a long time. I was going to say 25 years, but quarter of a century sounded like...
That sounds like
doesn't it sound more like... Yeah, it sounds like a lot,
it does. I like that.
But has done just about everything, in the industry over those years, and we'll let him go through his history a little bit, but also the owner of the Black Tie Experience and a keynote speaker, strategic trainer. So Bob, welcome to Restaurantopia.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time. Thanks for letting me come up to the studio.
No, we appreciate you having the time to come in today. And one reason I wanted to have Bob on the show is because he talks about the wow experience and really taking your customer service to another level. As operators, I think everyone needs to always be thinking about this and all the touch points that your customers have with your staff and making sure that they're wowing them every single time. But Bob, let's get into a little bit of your background.
And in 1994, I decided to go into the restaurant business. For a family business up here in Cleveland, had two family members in business and worked there through high school and college, like everybody else does, but learned a lot. I couldn't find a great pizza in Akron. So I called an uncle, my one uncle, and gave me, and I had a pretty good idea what the recipe was, but tinkered with a little bit, started making it and like, hey, Bob, you should open up a business. Get out of here. And all of a sudden, 1994, I opened up my first restaurant. Wow. And then in my infinite wisdom or lack thereof, we opened up a second restaurant.
Oh, one's great. Two's got to be better,
right? That's right. And that one only lasted about 12 months. Learned a lot. It was probably the most expensive lesson and best lesson I learned. But through that, started doing this thing called catering. One thing led to another, and started doing catering and doing unique venues, venues where you normally don't hold events and parties, and just started picking up more of those in Akron and Cleveland area and venues, historical homes, museums, you name it. And during the course of our 15-year career with the company, we're right about at 50, 60 unique venues all over Northeast Ohio.
That's a lot. Oh.
Yeah. And our claim to fame, I guess, is we were with the Pro Football Hall of Fame doing a lot of their upscale events. And during a 5-year period, we cater 25 of the Hall of Fame induction parties.
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So were those a Glenmore, parties, or was that actually at the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, no, it was right on the grounds of the Hall of Fame. They set up the tents
nice.
and all that. And it was a great experience. Through all that, because of the venues that we represented, customer service, customer experience has always been a huge part of my business. Back in 2004, I actually put this together. I put together an 8-hour comprehensive training program that before my staff could walk on any floor, they had to go through this, which was a combination of learning about our way of doing things, our culture, our leadership, what it meant to deliver that wow experience, and then task-oriented training. What are those proper techniques to do it consistently all the time on how to serve, how to clear, how to present yourself at a table? It got to the point where I was like, you know what, maybe I can do this for a living. So I know what I'll do is I'll sell my company and I'll become a keynote speaker. What was I thinking? And it actually was, but it's been a good transition until March of 2020. I tried that once
too. Only my business card said warm-up speaker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I wasn't ready to be like the keynote guy, so I was like, I'll just be the.
There you go. And so now what I do is I work with companies to help them look at the little things, to go above and beyond, to really deliver that memorable customer service experience that will bring people back. I tell people that we can bring anybody into your restaurant. You offer free whatever, and you can bring anybody into your restaurant. Yeah. The key is, can you retain them?
Right.
And one of the ways you do that is how your staff can interact with them. All what I call impact points that your staff can really exhibit, because you're going to get one shot. You might get two today, but more than likely you're going to get...
Most likely just one.
Yeah, one.
And people are so critical now.
Oh.
Now it's not they're telling their circle of 3 friends. They're immediately posting it online.
Absolutely.
And, being social media vigilantes when it comes to reviews.
Well, no different than word of mouth. Social media is, they're not on there. Like if there's 10 reviews, 9 of them are shit. And one of them might be like, hey, we had a good experience. So like if they're going to go out and talk, it's probably not going to be good.
No.
Right. Yeah. Right. Very rarely do we do that. Now, I'm kind of the opposite. I'll try to really go above and beyond. And if I had a great experience at a restaurant, well, first and foremost, I'm going to let the management know because I think that's really important. But then secondly, I will post it. Very rarely am I going to go online. And this is just me personally because that's just not how I operate. But I know that a lot of people do because we want to see, oh my gosh, here's the latest horror story. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I talk about and I ask restaurateurs is, how many people work in your marketing and PR staff? I'm like, we have one. Okay. Well, thank you. You do. That person that handles your marketing, social media, PR. Yes, you do. But I think you have more than that. Well, what do you mean? I think everybody in your team has that opportunity or should be in the marketing department of your team because how they work with your customer, that could be the only interaction for that entire restaurant experience. Right then and there.
Yeah, and we've talked about in past episodes where you've got owners that they've got a room full of people dining in the restaurant and they're looking down the street, like trying to get people to come in, and it's like, work these people that are here. You know what I mean? Like, so I love where you're going.
Right. Yeah. It's just, we try to rush people out, through an onboarding or whatever. Here, just, go out and serve. Great. Do you like people, Bob? Yeah. Okay, great.
Got a pulse? Here's the dish machine.
And that's why it was really important for us to put this comprehensive training program together because we literally had one shot. I remember doing, the Hall of Fame induction party for Ralph Wilson Jr., the iconic owner of the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, someone did their research.
I'm a Bills fan.
Oh, okay. Well, in fact, I got a chance to meet Mr. Wilson.
Okay, cool.
He was 91 at the time, but 750 people at his party. And I told my staff, so listen, I can't go up to him and say, gosh, Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry that we ruined your Hall of Fame party because our staff wasn't there. Mm-hmm. How about we come back next week?
Yeah.
And so my staff knew that they had to create this lasting impression by how they carried themselves, how they interact with the guests. Sure. And that started with training. Yeah. I mean, we put it right in our training room to say, okay, here's how you deal with an unhappy guest. Here's how you deal with, have that vision to anticipate those needs of people so that you can be proactive with it.
With catering, did you have a team that would constantly do events like every weekend, or did you have a lot of turnover just because the inconsistency, and maybe it's not correct, but the inconsistency of the events?
It fluctuated between 50 to 70 people per season or per year. We had full-time people, but then we had part-time, then we had part-time as needed people.
Okay.
But one of the keys, Brian, was that how we trained them, how we made them feel. I had people that stayed with my company for 8, 10, 12, 14 years working part-time as needed.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, guys, thank you so much. Why are you doing this? And like, Bob, it's because of your culture, how you're taking care of us. We want to come back to work. I mean, I enjoyed working at the venues.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I never had that big of a challenge trying to find people because they would find people for me.
Right. Yeah. No, it's a great testament to what you're doing because we talk about that too. Like when an employee is referring their family or friends to come work for your company, like I don't know if there's much bigger compliment than that.
I agree.
And I think that, it just starts with your staff. I mean, how engaged are you going to make them? Are they passionate to come to work? I tell people that most people come to work for a paycheck. They stay at work based on how they're treated. And so if we can get those people to stick around, it improves retention, it improves production, it improves revenue.
Well, in this job market that we see here today, it's March 2021. You have to wow your employees.
Absolutely.
Because they will go to another job. They will be making $1 or $2 more an hour potentially. And if you don't treat them right, they will leave. And then also, as you said earlier, like they are your chief marketing officer. They're on the front lines. They're interacting with the customer. How are they trained up and are they doing it correctly?
And so I started with this with my staff. I created this acronym based on the word lasts, because you see my tagline now is, or I'm creating an impression that lasts. Mm-hmm. And so what I would talk to them about is that there are 5 keys on how to represent yourself. And it's based on the word last, and the L is for how you look. So yeah, we talk about uniform, but more than that, how do you show up? I mean, what's your body language look like when you're coming to the table? Better yet, what's your body language look like when you're talking to the 3 other people and your staff in the corner, which you don't think that the restaurateurs can see you. Mm-hmm. guess what? They can see you. And so we used to practice that. We used to practice on how you stand and how you point. And I know these could be trivial things.
No, but posture, how you carry yourself, all of that goes into confidence and making sure that you feel comfortable around the guests and the guests feel comfortable around you.
And also from the employee standpoint, it shows that you care.
Yeah.
Like those details.
Right.
If somebody's like, wow, this, because I honestly, and I've said this 100 times, like, I don't think people wake up in the morning wanting to do a crappy job.
Absolutely.
Like, people want to do well. They want to, they want to represent, so when you're leading people in that direction to say like, okay, these are our standards. This is our, they feel another level of ownership and accountability towards that organization, towards the customer, towards everything.
And maybe they didn't have.
But if you don't give them that guidance, like, they may not get there. Like, these are people that aren't going to get there on their own. Like, these are people that you just got to show them that's the direction. Yeah.
Is the shirt ironed? I mean, that's the thing where you're coaching up the staff. Like, all right, I'm going to give you the shirt, but like, you got to wash it and iron it. Do you buy them an iron? Do you just, hey, here you go. Like,
well, it goes back to PALS. I mean, in PALS Sudden Service, I don't know if you've heard of them down in Tennessee, but they used to do an excellent training that now it's called the McCloskey Institute. So they kind of split up with the restaurant. But anyhow, we went there when it was PALS. That's the thing. There's like 72-point conditions of employment, and the first one is showing up on time. And then it's like, okay, we need pleats on both sides of your arm. Are you willing to do this? Your pants are going to be to this level based where your shoes are at. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, and they're going through it, like you're saying.
Well, and that's what I love, because I call it's the steps of service, and it's really practicing and preaching service excellence. And then the A is for how you act, or how you can carry yourself on the floor, because your actions speak louder than words. So I've had, numerous people like, come here. You're not paid to dance at the event. I'm just telling you right now. You're not paid to dance. Okay. You got to act.
Yeah.
You got to act professional.
Right.
The first S is for how you speak. What language do you use? And how do you speak to your guests? Now, since the business we were in, and this was for our business only, we were a mid-upscale event and catering company. So I teach my staff that we would greet our guests with either sir, ma'am, or miss. I don't want to hear any of the buzzwords.
Yeah, but I think that whether it's upscale or fast casual or, quick serve, whatever it is, I still think that formality and respect goes such a long way. It goes back to...
Well, I agree with you.
And it goes back to ChickfilA. Do you think ChickfilA is like, hey, dude, what do you want? You want some chicken? Like, it's not that.
Well, and that's my point exactly. I didn't want to, or people listening, well, Bob, I have a family style restaurant or and our customers are family and great. So, call by the first name, because people love to hear their name.
Of course. Yeah.
That's to me, that's another level.
That's most people's favorite word.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just all, so it's all these little things. The T is for tact and how you behave. And then finally the S is how you serve. People rush to the service part. And I would tell my staff, I say, you're never going to be able to serve the part on the show, to look the part, act the part, and speak the part. And so once we got them through that, then here's the key, which I think is really important, at least it was for us, is, we would go through the training and maybe they wouldn't work for 2 weeks. Well, by that time, they're probably not remembering a lot. Right. So here's what we did, is that we paired them with one of our veteran staff people. And we empowered our veteran staff people to become their mentor. And then they were the leaders, say, okay, let's go through this again. So when we're at the event, this new person now had this safety net for the first couple of events, that they could get that confidence back. And it worked really well. And our veterans appreciated it because they were now empowered.
I was just going to say, you're engaging both ends of it. Because that I love that. That's awesome.
Or those little things. And I think, guys, this, most of your clients got the big things down pat. I mean, they have good food. They have decent service, but it's those little things that they can do during the course of that customer experience that's going to determine and how the staff treats them, or how the staff treats the customer, if the customer's coming back or not.
It goes back to hospitality. I mean, serving someone is basically what they expect. And if you're providing world famous hospitality, that's providing something that they don't expect. And in this age, I think that we're just getting to the point where the bar keeps getting lower and lower and lower. What are we doing as restaurateurs to provide amazing service? So I love all this. And this training.
Well, think about that. We're getting to the point where there's not even human contact. Like, you're on your phone, it gets delivered and dropped off to your porch.
Yeah.
You paid with a credit card.
Like you didn't even talk to somebody, see somebody, interact with somebody.
No.
So the chances that you have to actually do that should be impressive. Right?
Well, and so you were doing your research on me because that's really what I talk about. And I really differentiate my business is on this principle of hospitality. Service, I talk about services given. That's what we should be doing. You should be providing the service. But hospitality is how you're going to make them feel while you're delivering that service. And my definition of hospitality, and I found this and I love it, I use it all the time now, is it's that art of making that personal connection between you and someone else.
I love that.
Yeah. So how are you going to make that person feel? Because when they walk out of that restaurant, they're either going to do one of two things. They're either going to talk to somebody, say, you know what, you got to go. Oh my gosh, what, and the service, well, or how about the food? Oh yeah, the food was good, but you wouldn't believe how well they took care of us. Or they're going to post it online.
Right.
How your staff treats their customers, to me, it's the number one marketing tool you should have.
And I think, and Dave kind of hit on this point too, I think now with the touch points so finite, so fleeting, that you have to be above and beyond and such a great provider of service and hospitality, because if you're not, you're just going to get beat up. It's dangerous.
Well, you're going to get the one chance. And then they're going to find someplace else where they can get that experience.
But the one chance is not 13 interactions while the person sits there. The one chance is right when they open up the box or the bag of food or the one interaction that they had on the phone. Or there are very few interactions now. So the ability for you to mess up and never be able to recover. I'll give you an example. So we were, and this isn't a takeout example, but we went to dinner for my wife's birthday 2 weekends ago, and it was at a fine dining upscale restaurant in Akron. Great operator, and it was 10 of us, still in COVID. We're living dangerously. It was fun. It was 10 of us, all had quarantined for 14 days and taken multiple tests, and we were all clean. But anyways.
Sure.
The pilot light on the oven went out, and the chicken wasn't fully cooked. So to the two people that had chicken, everyone else had steaks, and it wasn't fully cooked. So the manager immediately came out, fell on her sword, and said, hey, this is what happened. The pilot light went out. We're going to cook you 2 new chicken dishes. Here's $50 gift cards each. This is comped on the house. And here's a drink while you wait. I couldn't believe it. The amount of just going over the top and service and hospitality and apologies. Again, you're not going to be perfect every time, but to have a game plan in place. Something is going to go wrong this weekend. Does your staff, did you empower them? Do they know what to do? Do they have a game plan? All right, I have the ability to give out this amount of free stuff and fix the problem. I guarantee the guests at our table, and I know that I followed up with them afterwards, 1, had a great experience. 2, barely remember that the issue was with the chicken, but remember the great hospitality. So that, and this is one of our Hillcrest customers, amazing operator, local independent restaurateur, has a few high-end restaurants in the Akron and Cleveland locations. But again, you have to be interacting with that customer and using every opportunity, even a bad one, to provide amazing hospitality.
Yes, I love that story because that's really what I talk about. And people ask me, well, Bob, what's the black tie experience? Well, that's the black tie experience. I mean, you can name it however you want to name it.
Yeah.
But for me, I named it the black tie experience because this was the uniform that we wore. We were the tux outfits, and then people are like, Bob, you guys go above and beyond. You take care of all those details. You make it so easy to do business with us. That's first class service.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so that's the black tie experience. And Brian, here's what I'll do is for me, and I like the word touch points, but I've even found for me just a stronger word that I use, and it's impact points. Because we have about 10 seconds to make an impact. So when they walk out of their car in the parking lot, what's the parking lot look like?
Yep.
Thank you.
Right?
Look at the parking lot? Maybe we should look at the parking lot.
Maybe we should look at the parking lot.
Is there snow? Should we shovel? Put some ice down?
Are there cigarette butts? Is there trash from your neighbor? You need to be looking at every aspect of your operation through the customer's eyes.
Yeah.
you hit the nail on the head, because here's one of the things that I ask I do a lot of trainings now. Said, I'm curious, how many of you have or have become a customer or have been a customer in your restaurant before you started working here? Mm-hmm. And very few hands raised. I'm like, well, how do you know what the customer's going through if you don't put your staff in their shoes and take the blinders off? So what we would do is, our staff would sit down and we would have other staff serve them. And we'd go to a venue and then we'd, and okay, guys, here's what we're going to do. Here's our service. So I want you to experience what it's like to be a customer. Because otherwise, how do you know what they're going through?
Right. I want the audience to kind of soak that into what Bob's saying here. If you're a fast casual restaurant or just you have online ordering, have your staff sit down, order a meal, get it to go. Drive around for an hour, come back, have the staff open it, eat it. What is that experience like? What is that customer experiencing when they're at home? Because once it leaves your possession, you have no control over it. How is your food traveling? What is the flavor profiles? What does it taste like? What does it look like? Those are all the things you need to be really looking at and studying. Be a student of the game. And I definitely love what you're saying, Bob. That's awesome.
Well, and so. Thank you. Or in fact, I have an exercise that I work with companies on that I encourage them to do. And you could do it for both takeout, you could do it for dine-in, but I call it the good, could, should exercise. And it's simply this: walk around your parking lot, become your customer. What are the things that you're doing good in terms of impact points? Okay, great. So write them all down. Okay, so let's always keep monitoring these. Next thing is, what are those things that we could change? Now, gosh, that signage out front, it's getting old. We could really do that. Or, we could do a paint job on the front of the building or whatever. Okay, so make a plan for 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is. Great. Then the third one is the most immediate. Okay, here are the things we should change. So I did this for a company in York, Pennsylvania. I traveled there. And in fact, the day that you and I were on the phone back in October, I was traveling to York, Pennsylvania. So I went there. I spent 2 days there. And on the evening of the first night, I walked around and took photos. And then we had a follow-up training the second day. And so I showed them the should. So one of the should was you walk into the front entrance. And the first two things you see, I kid you not, the first two things you see are a very... the window on top was kind of foggy. This didn't look good. And then there was a trash can right in the lobby area. The very first thing you walk into. Guys, I'm just saying you you should move this out of the way.
Right.
And you know what? To their credit, they did.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, oh my gosh, Bob, thank you. We walk past it every day.
No, and you sometimes can't see the forest for the trees. You're inside the business so much, and that's why it's good to have a third party come in, take a look at things. I can't tell you how many pizza places I've been in that you have 100 square feet. I mean, we're not talking you got the IX Center here. It's 100 square feet, and the walls are dirty, or there's scuff marks, or the trim needs to be painted, or there's pizza sauce somewhere where someone dropped something. Like, this area can be cleaned. It can be cleaned well, and it should be cleaned on an every other day basis. I mean, this is a high traffic area, but it's basically, besides the customer looking back into your kitchen, but like you can't see the things in the back of the kitchen like you can in the front of the lobby. So make sure those things are clean.
Consciously and sometimes subconsciously, when it's dirty out front, I don't even want to see what the back looks like. Like, I can see this.
Oh, yeah.
That's hidden. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, do I want to eat here? Like,
in my bathroom example,
pink eye.
Yeah, if the bathroom is disgusting, the restaurant is disgusting. And again, that may or may not be true, but
no, it is.
Well, but perceptually,
yeah,
or what you're thinking, because one of the things that I used to tell my staff is that on perception is 9/10 of the law. How people perceive us could typically become their truth.
Yeah.
So whether or not, I mean, your kitchen could be spotless, but that restroom is filthy. But then let me flip it for you guys, because I tell people this all the time. You could have the most beautiful restaurant in the entire world. I mean, you could eat off the floor, like the Friends episode with the cheesecake.
Yeah.
I mean, you could eat off the floor. It's so clean. But then you get greeted, What do you want? I don't know. That's not my job. Yeah, you'll have to call back. I mean, so all these things that you do to make your restaurant look perfect, all of a sudden get tarnished by your people. So that's why that same exercise, the good, could, should exercise, should be done with your people.
I love that.
So, how are they answering the phone?
Yep.
How are they following up with, with a customer? I mean, I love what you said, how the manager took it upon themselves at that restaurant to make things right. No questions asked.
Oh, she went.
That's huge.
She went above and beyond. It was a really great experience.
And I think I don't want to gloss over the point you made. Like, you need to empower the managers, empower the employees to have a certain realm of things they can do. Because I feel like whenever something goes wrong, most restaurateurs want to figure out the cheapest way to get out of it. And it's
a good point.
When you look at it, it's like, what does it cost to lose a customer forever?
Oh,
it's
like, think about
it's
that
astronomical.
happening and it was handled differently. You may never be back.
The more you can empower your staff and coach them up that this is how we do things, because the alternative is so expensive. It's so catastrophic.
we're right. And I think sometimes, Brian, we have a short-term look at it. Like, okay, well, so I lost a customer. No, you don't understand. I mean, you lost a customer, but now how many people are they going to tell, and so forth. And
it is amazing the effect that one customer can have. So you can't afford to lose one customer.
Right.
So
well, and typically we will remember that waitstaff person, that chef or cook who went above and beyond and made us feel something special. And what I talk with my clients about is it's creating more brand ambassadors in your business. And for me, that definition is someone who can't wait to tell the story of how you make them feel. And in fact, I ask during my training, so so I'm curious, how many brand ambassadors do you have? Can you name 10 of your brand ambassadors right now? Why? Well, guess what? They're also part of your marketing department.
Right.
yeah.
So what can you do? Oh, and by the way, there's 2 types of brand ambassadors. We know the customer is one, but guess who the other one is, folks? It's your employees. And how many brand ambassadors do you have where you said earlier, Brian, hey, you know what? You got to come work for us. They take great care of us. They train us. They invest in us to make sure that we want to say, because, guys, I was there too. I mean, I understand that people that work in this industry, some of them are there through college, or there's a part-time job, they need some extra spending money. They might not stay the entire time, but what can we do to make their experience wonderful while they're here, so that when they leave, they're going to give us glowing reviews to say, you know what, you got to work for this guy, or got to work for this gal.
I love that. I love that. Bob, thanks for coming in today. Where can people find you?
So they can look on my website, which is my name. It's bobpacanovsky.com. You can spell that probably in the...
We'll put it in the show notes.
There you go.
there you go.
It'll be clickable, as they say.
Thank you. Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate this opportunity to share my story and share my thoughts. You guys have a great podcast. I enjoy listening to it.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye. This is a high quality pod. Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Adios.
Thank you for listening to Restaurantopia. The gratitude that we have for each and every one of you spending your precious time to listen to this podcast is immeasurable. Please make sure to tell a friend about this podcast. And also, if you have any feedback for us, visit us on restaurantopia.com and drop us a line. You can also subscribe on your favorite place to listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a great day.